Hello, hello. So good to be here with you. And today is St. Patrick's Day. I have my Irish sweater, my Irish knot. And today we're going to dive deeper into a concept that I teach very directly in my coaching practice with my clients. And it is essentially the foundation. It is a very core foundation of my coaching practice and of the work that I do with people. And I think it is a core principle of burnout. So I want you to imagine a woman sitting at her desk, maybe her head in her hands, exhausted, overwhelmed, barely holding it together. You can feel the stress bubbling up and never really settling back down. You feel the frustration with the latest assignment or a challenging team member or another retirement or another person leaving the team and having to hire yet again into the calendar. You look at your calendar and there's just no white space this week. You've been here before, and maybe this is where you are right now, but I want you to hear me. This is not who you are. I've coached many successful women who have powered through. That's their motive operation, is to power through. Who've done everything right. They've worked hard. They've stayed productive. They've been reliable. They've been the one that everyone counts on, only to wake up one day to realize that they are running on empty, that their body feels like it's betraying them. Their mind doesn't feel as sharp as it used to be. Does any of this sound familiar for you? How did we get here? You did not choose exhaustion, frustration, resentment. These are the result of habits that you have ingrained for a very, very, very long time. And a lot of it is from our culture, the constant push of productivity and performance, society, the good girl script, be nice, work hard, don't complain, prove yourself. The corporate culture of if you're not busy, if your calendar isn't full, then you're not valuable. Your family, your upbringing might be that put others first, be responsible, hard work pays off. But here's the problem, is that these habits may be what got you into the doing and got you used to the doing. But I'm here to tell you that that is not who you are. And it's what is leading to your burnout. However, it is not a life sentence. You are not your exhaustion, your frustration, your burnout. There is a core of you, a very core of you at the center. And that center is what we need to come back to. The real you is underneath that exhaustion. The real you is underneath the frustration, the brain fog. She's still there. She's buried under layers of obligations, expectations, and all of these survival mode habits. The expectations of your presence at work in back-to-back meetings, the expectation of having your kids involved in everything that either you or others feel they should be involved in, that keeps you running every evening, every weekend, expectations of being involved outside of work, and not saying that you shouldn't be, but when it's over and over and it's taking away from your well-being, taking away from your mental and physical well-being, then it is a part of this conditioning. And what are the signs that that real self, that core part of you, is trying to get your attention? You see frustration bubbling up. You see resentment bubbling up. And normally you might have emotions at work that normally you could kind of keep at bay. And you don't have the same level of emotional capacity to put your distance between a situation and your reaction. That is a prime signal of burnout. Another sign that your real self underneath is trying to get your attention is that you're exhausted, and that you may try to catch up on vacation and you feel good the day or two after, and then the exhaustion hits right back in again. Or you get a good night's sleep or a couple good nights sleep over the weekend, and by Tuesday, you're exhausted. You've lost excitement, or you've lost the passion for what you do, for the things you once loved, whether it's at work or even at home. So many women I talk to, they don't even know what they like anymore outside of work. They can't even remember what their hobbies were. And more, your relationships are strained. This exhaustion isn't just from working too much. That can be part of it, depending on how many hours a week you work. And more of that exhaustion is from being out of alignment with who you really are at your core. When the things you're doing are they sap so much of your energy when they're out of alignment with who you really are. When these habits that you've been performing for years and years and years, again, the societal, cultural, organizational expectations that we're trying to meet, when those are out of alignment with your core needs of your biological needs, your well-being needs, your mental needs, your desires as a human being, as a woman, when this is out of alignment, that saps your energy. And you don't even realize this. This happened to me so many times until I realized the burnout I was going through and how I needed to fix it. The weight of all of this, all of the masks of productivity, of being nice, of being the hero, of being the one who always saves the day, of being the peacekeeper, these are the ones that cause the exhaustion, that cause the frustration when you're out of alignment with those core needs. So there's 3 basic steps that I'm going to give you. And I'm going to tell you so that you can begin to shift out of some of these habits. And I'm going to tell you that this is, again, the foundation. And sometimes it takes me weeks, sometimes even months working with clients to get these 3 shifts, these 3 habits to kind of shift those habits. And the first one is just the first step in making this shift is observation, awareness and observation. And you want to start to notice, what are the thoughts and feelings? What are those patterns that are running your life? Now, we have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, and most of us don't pay attention to what we're thinking. And so it might take some time, and it might actually take pausing a few times throughout the day to just write down, what am I thinking? Or even to see if you can, in that moment of frustration, go, okay, what's going on? What do I want? What do I need? What am I thinking right now? And see if you can jot a few things down. Just start to become aware. Just start to observe. If that's hard, you might have a little bit easier time tuning into how you feel. And there's 2 ways to do this. Sometimes you can just say, what am I feeling? And some people have words for it quite easily. Others don't. And so you might need to tune into your body. What do I feel in my body? So for me, there's a lot of time when I feel a constriction in my throat, or I feel a tightness in my chest, or I feel an uneasiness in my stomach. And so just start there. What am I feeling? And tune into what it actually feels like in your body. And there's ways that you can kind of give it a bit of attention and give it a bit of description. So let's say it's that tightness in your chest. How big is it? Is it the size of an egg? Is it the size of a baseball? Is it the size of a grapefruit? Is it round or square? Does it have a specific shape? Does it have a color? Is it vibrating? Is it moving at all? Or is it still and solid? Is it, does it have a sense of movement to it? Does it have a sense of softness or hardness? And just start to feel it. Oftentimes, just giving it that little bit of attention can allow it to start to soften. And you might even ask yourself, if this needed to change, what would it need to be able to change? If it wanted to change, what would it want to change into? So if I was feeling a tightness in my chest, I might ask myself, what does that tightness, if that tightness wanted to change, what would it want to change to? And for me, the first word that came to mind was ease or softness. And then what would it need to have a little bit more ease or to have a little bit of softness? And see if you can just play with that a little bit. So that's the first step, awareness and observation. Can you start to become more aware of what you're thinking? And our thoughts drive our feelings. And depending on your personality type, you might tune in better to your thinking, or you might tune in better to your feelings. And so see which one comes first. And then from the thought, how does that thought make you feel? Or from that feeling, what am I thinking that's causing me to feel this way? Okay, so that's number one, awareness and observation. The second one is to really give yourself self-compassion, to give yourself some compassion and some grace. This isn't about doing more. This is about shifting from one habit to something that serves you better. It's about unlearning a habit that is putting you into this space, a habit of proving, a habit of caretaking, a habit of being the hero, a habit of, all these different habits. And I did a live last week that we went into six or eight of these. I think it was 7 or 8 of these last week. So if you want to, go back either on YouTube or in LinkedIn, and you can see last week's live, and I go into details of each one of those. So the second step is really to give yourself some grace, give yourself some compassion. If you treated yourself differently, so think about the way you're working, and if you had a close friend in this situation and you were giving them some advice or suggesting they do something differently, what would you say to them? What would you want them to do? What would you think they should do differently? See if you can just even give yourself the grace of saying, okay, I observe it, I see it, without judgment, without being critical. See if you can just say, okay, I notice. This is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm feeling when I am overriding my body's need for rest, or overriding my, decision to work a few less hours a week. What am I thinking and feeling when I go into that override, when I'm overworking, when I'm, striving and proving? So can you give yourself some compassion? Just little small bits of compassion. Be observant, be aware without the judgment, without being critical. And think, if you start to judge and be critical, would you talk to your daughter that way? Would you talk to your son that way? And then the third step is to create space, to really create space. And the space, there's a lot of different ways to interpret this space. One of them might be a literal space between your ears and your shoulders. That's one way that my stress presents itself. If I can create space, I can breathe better. I sit up straighter, I relax a bit. Even though my body seems a little more stiff, it's actually more alert. So little things, creating space in little ways. See if there's one less obligation that you can carry. Maybe that's a way that you can create space. Another way you can create space is to redefine productivity for you. And it might not just even be productivity. You might need to shift what is going to be most effective for me? Where do I want to have the greatest impact and influence with my effectiveness versus productivity? Productivity often has us on a hamster wheel of doing more. And so it might mean redefining what success in your role looks like. Maybe from an impact perspective, maybe from an influence perspective, maybe from a strategic perspective versus a productive perspective. And then see, another way that you can create space is to reconnect with what really fuels you, what gives you energy. And then see if you can notice what drains your energy and how can you shift those. And I actually have an activity that helps with that if you're interested. DM me and say, I'd like the activity about fuels versus drains. Maybe just DM me and say fuel, and I'll send it to you. The biggest step that you can take is to really come back to figuring out what's underneath all those habits. And part of it is to observe the habits and then peel that away. Because rediscovering who you are at the core of your being, your gifts, your talents, your preferences, your needs, your unique, what I call your unique energetic blueprint. And that's what I do in my coaching. So I'd love to have a conversation with you one-on-one, a free conversation, to look at what are some of the habits that you're in and how might we start to peel away? What would it look like to start to peel away these habits and uncover that core of your being? So keep in mind, this doing, this constant motion, this exhaustion, it is not who you are. It is just what you're doing right now. And you can come back to yourself. So if you're feeling disconnected from yourself, know that you are not alone. So many women I talk to, that is the core of their burnout, is they feel disconnected from who they really are. And if you don't know that you do not have to stay stuck in this cycle, if you're ready to rediscover who you really are underneath so that you can love your life, love your work again, be more effective and more impactful in fewer hours, then please drop fuel in the comments or drop fuel, DM me and drop fuel in there. And I'll send you a link to my calendar and we can set up a time to chat. I look forward to having a conversation with you, and happy St. Patrick's Day again. And please, this isn't who you are. Let's get you back into your unique energetic blueprint so you can have such an amazing impact in your organization, in your family, in your world, and that you can love your life again. Have a great rest of your week.